Mr. Banham is here. Ms. Banham is not. The matter was set for hearing on a motion regarding custody filed by Mr. Banham. Sir, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm any testimony given this cause to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right. And what are you requesting today? What led you to file the motion, and what would you like to see the court do?
I would like to initiate some child support, and I would like full custody, physical custody, and the
Legal?
the what?
Physical and legal custody?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. And what are you basing that on? What has changed with the situation with your children?
A year and a half or so ago, I removed my children from my actual due to.
Speak up. I'm having trouble hearing you.
My ex-wife had children removed from her due to abuse, physical abuse, and then later on, allegation came of molestation, and it's just an unsafe environment for them. They're in foster care, being reunification with. I have the children in my house now. They've been with me for a month.
All right, so you're cutting in and out a little bit, but I think what you said is that the children were removed from the pool. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, they were removed by Protective Services in what county?
Jackson.
Okay, and that was done a year and a half ago?
I believe so.
All right, and so they were placed in foster care for some period of time?
Yeah, they've been in foster care the whole time.
Okay. And I assume you had some hearings with a referee or judge down there regarding this matter. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Mr. LaFlame.
Okay. And was there what they usually call a parent agency treatment plan or a case service plan with the department to try to work toward a goal of reunification implemented? Yes,
sir. It's all the requirements accomplished that I wanted done. I got residency for them in Nuevo County. They have medical. They've got their psychological and mental doctors, psychologists.
All right.
Established everything that they need here in Nuevo County has been established for.
Okay, and they have. Did you indicate they have in fact been placed in your care by that judge?
Yes, sir.
All right, and is that case still open now then, or was the case closed?
We'll be closing on July 27th, I want to say, or 26th. All
right, and is the department currently still implementing services like family reunification plan or some kind of in-home service? Is that right?
Yeah, it's all done already. With Catholic Charities.
Okay, all right. And Ms. Green, it looks like, is here. Is she someone you wanted to testify?
Yeah, she's my foster care caseworker.
Okay, all right.
And she'll be able to see all the stuff that I don't.
All right, maybe I'll be able to hear her better. Ms. Green, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you given this cause to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right, and what can you tell me about, I guess for the purposes of this case, the case that you were involved with Nikolai, Joseph, Mira, and Mr.
So the boys have been in care since December 2021. During the time he was incarcerated, but after he got out, he has been working with me. And on May, in May, we had a hearing. Sorry, we had a hearing at the end of April, but in May 10th, he got his kids back, and he just finished the reunification program with Catholic Charities in Nuevo. And right now, we don't have any concerns, and we feel like it's the best interest for him to have custody of the boys. And we do have a hearing in July, but regardless, that we're also going to ask for the closure of his part of the case, with obviously with the FOC involved as well. Right. So we don't have any concerns at all, but he has been doing excellent so far.
All right. And way back in December of 21, you said Mr. Bannon was incarcerated. Were the children removed from Mrs. Bannon then?
Yes. So Mr. Bannon, he was incarcerated for 5 years, and his ex-wife had custody. And with that part, due to the removal, that's the reason why the kids were put in care.
Okay.
Mhm.
And from December of 2021 until May, well, I guess from the time he was released from incarceration until May, I assume Mr. Banham complied with or benefited from the services that you were offering?
Yes, sir.
All right, what services were those?
So the services, he did psychological. I also want to point it out. He also did I believe his probation. He also did well with that. He did drug screens. He did parenting classes. He didn't have to do any therapy, but he still did the necessary psychological evaluation. He did not even have to do substance assessment because he did do substance assessment. He didn't have to do any necessary extra stuff due to him doing well. There was obviously just the distance with him being in Wago and parenting time in Jackson. We eventually came up with a plan, and he has been cooperating and attending parenting time that was suitable for the court, even though the distance was very lengthy. But after that, also he had employment, housing, he did everything. So we don't have any concerns.
All right, and then over that same period of time, or I guess the entire period of time from December of 21 till current, did Mrs. Banham comply with and benefit from services?
I would say right now she does have a lot more services that she needs to comply with still.
Okay. So were her barriers the same, psychological, substance abuse, parenting classes, employment, housing, things like that?
I would say she did finish psychological. She is in therapy. Employment, she is working, but housing is still an issue. And for therapy, it is not consistent, and there's still substance use as well. But so right now, for her part of the case and the half sibling, they're still going to be in care until we can continue.
All right.
Yeah, till they'll change if it happens or not.
Okay. Was there ever a time that the department considered returning the kids to her over that year and a half or so?
No.
No? All right. So if not for Mr. Banham, the kids would likely still be in foster care?
Yes, sir.
All right. And have you had a chance to witness the parenting time with Mr. Banham and his kids?
Yes, sir.
All right. How's that go?
I think it goes well. In the beginning, one of the siblings, Joe, it was hard, but eventually he came up and everything went well with Nick and Joe. So they had enough bonding time as well.
All right. And so you've witnessed a bond between Mr. Banham and both children.
Yes, sir.
They look forward to seeing him.
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you know if he has the financial ability to provide for the children?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you know where Mr. Banham works?
Yes. Well, at this time, right now, his significant other, she has the income, but due to the boys and planning to put the boys into, I believe, day camp. So while the boys are in day camp, he's going to go back to work.
Okay. I'm just kind of going through the child custody factors here. So what grade, or I guess what age are both of the kids?
12 and 10.
All right, so they're school age, and did they finish out the school year then, and then transition to Mr. Banham? Was that why the date was what it was?
Yes.
Okay. And did you do any kind of home inspection or have a courtesy agency do a home inspection to Mr. Banham's home?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and it was appropriate?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did he have like toys for the kids and places for them to sleep and things like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you know how long Mr. Banham's lived in that home?
Oh, I would say over a year.
Okay. All right. And then historically, did Mrs. Banham provide for the kids, provide their food, clothing, shelter, things like that?
Before the kids enter care, yes.
Okay. What was the precipitating factor that led to their removal from her?
Improper supervision, physical abuse, threatened harm, exposed substance use. Also, CPS was also assigned in the home, and they continued to still abuse the boys. And then later on, it was discovered that there was sexual abuse that happened before the boys entered care.
Oh, geez. Okay. Did she take any steps to address any of that stuff?
I would say yes. I would say yes, but right now there's still a lot of barriers still.
Okay. How are the kids traditionally do in school? Did you have access to that?
Yes, however, due to those boys have been in foster care in quite a while, so there are ups and downs, but education wise, they're smart, very, very smart kids.
Okay. How about a preference? Do you know, did they ever express a preference to you of whether they'd rather live with their mom or their dad at this time?
So talking to both the boys, they were fine living with their dad. Joe, he was a little bit, scared because dad was in prison for 5 years, and obviously they grew a bond. But the main thing, the boys was they were just tired of being in foster care and they want to have a home.
Right.
And yeah.
And then do you know if did the children witness any domestic violence in the mother's home, as far as you know?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, but they themselves were actually physically abused under her watchful eye?
Correct.
All right. All right. Anything else that's relevant that I haven't asked about, ma'am?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Banham, anything else you want to say?
Yes, I would like to know how the visitation will go. I do not really want her to have contact or get in contact with the children due to the abuse. And if there is any type of contact, I'd like to have very supervised.
All right, at this time, I've heard the testimony from two witnesses, Mr. Banham himself and Diane Green, Dianeegreen. And it appears to be in the children's best interest to enter an order of custody at this time. Both Mr. Banham and Ms. Green, under my questioning, answered questions for the court to make a finding that under the child custody factors, MCL 722.27, there's certainly proper cause to address the issue of custody. The proper cause or change in circumstances would be that the children were removed from the mother's care, that the children were in foster care for approximately a year and a half, and that somewhere along the way, the decision was made to work toward reunification with Mr. Banham instead of Ms. Banham, the parent from whom they were removed. Mr. Banham and Ms. Green have testified about factor A, the love and affection and emotional ties between the children and the parent. And she indicated that the children, although apprehensive at first, have good bonding with the father at this time. Factor 2 is the capacity and disposition of the parties to give the children affection and guidance. And factor 3 kind of goes together with that, the capacity and disposition of the parties to provide the children with food, clothing, and medical care. And while she said that wasn't necessarily lacking in the mother's home, that Mr. Banham is able at this time through his resources and the other adult in the home to provide for the children. Factor D is the length of time the children lived in a stable, satisfactory environment. And the desirability to continue that environment. It doesn't sound like their environment was all that satisfactory or stable at the time they were removed from the mother. Mr. Banham, for whatever reason, because he was incarcerated, was unable to take the children right away, and it took a year and a half. But it sounds like his home is stable and satisfactory at this time. Permanence of the family unit, I didn't really get into that. The moral fitness of the parties involved. I've dealt with Mr. Banham for probably the majority of the 20-some years I've been doing this now, and various issues over the years, not consistently, but I certainly recognize the name, but I also recognize Ms. Banham's name, and neither are perfect, and I guess I'll leave it at that, but it doesn't appear that the children will be harmed by any morality issue in Mr. Banham's home at this time. Mental and physical health of the parties involved, I guess I didn't really get into that. It sounds like there were some psychological evaluations that were done as part of the CPS case, and Mr. Banham must have successfully addressed any issues that arose from that. Children's homeschool and community record. Ms. Green testified that the children are intelligent, that they had some understandable issues with education, I guess, due to being in foster care and having a pretty, it sounds like, threatening and unstable environment at home prior to that. Hopefully, Mr. Banham, you can address that to the best of your ability and get them on track educationally. Preference, Ms. Green testified that the children were looking forward to being with a parent, and Mr. Banham is the only parent who's addressed the issues that needed to be addressed to work toward reunification. Domestic violence didn't appear to really be a factor between the two parties. And any other factor, I mean, it's certainly relevant that it came to pass that these children were removed from their mother, and that it took 1.5 years to place them back with a parent, and that was not the parent from whom they were removed, which is, I guess, not unheard of, but not the norm. The mother did not successfully comply with and benefit from all of the services that would have been required for her to do so, to work toward reunification with her. Mr. Bannum did, so that's certainly a relevant factor as well. So I would find that by either standard, preponderance of evidence or clear and convincing evidence, that sufficient evidence has been provided for that reasoning to enter a custody, placing them in the physical custody of Mr. Bannum. Ms. Bannum has not appeared today to contest this, and for that reason as well, I would grant him sole legal custody. Parenting time at this point would just be as the parties agree. So if you and Ms. Bannum can hammer out some parenting time, sir, that's fine. You can put certain conditions on it. You can say it's got to be here, it's got to be there, it's got to be with a supervisor present, things like that at this point, because she's not here to offer any other suggestion. I'll go along with that. As far as child support is concerned, I'll refer that to the front of the court. They'll file a motion and send out paperwork for both of you to fill out and send back, and then we'll have a hearing on child support. You're not ordered to pay support at this point, though, are you? Mr. Bannum, are you ordered to pay support at this time?
I'm sorry, I got disturbed.
Is there currently a child support order for you to pay?
No.
No? All right. So in front of the court will file that motion. You'll get notice of that in the mail. All right.
Great.
Anything else for today?
I do have a question.
Okay, yep.
I do have a question, sir.
Sure, yep.
How quick can I get the FOC order so I can provide for Jackson case?
I'll do it today. Like I said, I'm the referee, not the judge. So I'll do the order here probably up this morning. It'll go to the judge and be signed. I think she was on vacation last week. She may be back this week. So I would assume it would be signed probably in Mr. Bannum's hands by the end of the week, by the end of next week at the latest.
Okay. All right.
Your hearing in Jackson Family Court, you said was on July 27th. You certainly have it long prior to that.
Yes, actually July 25th at 9:45.
25th, yeah. You'll have it long before that, I can guarantee that.
Okay.
So is that going to essentially probably close your case then, having an order granting him custody and just parenting time as agreed without a guaranteed right of parenting time?
For Nick and Jill, yes. There's also a half sibling, so for that kid, it'll still be open.
Okay. All right, good. Well, unless there's anything else, we should be all set.
Thank you.
Mr. Davenport, all right, here, matter was set for a hearing on a motion regarding custody filed by Mr. Davenport. Set for today at 1. It's now about 10 after. The other party has not appeared. There is a certificate of mailing in the file from friend. And what led you to file the motion? What are you requesting today and what?
I am requesting full physical custody of both my daughters, to keep joint legal custody as it currently is. If I get full physical custody, I do not want to be having my ex-wife pay child support. But that's what I want.
All right. And what led you to file the motion regarding custody? Why are you requesting a change in custody?
So as of November of last year, my ex-wife, well, she had about five months of zero contact with my children. She dropped them off at her mother's house. She lives in, as far as I know, a camper behind somebody's house, and she has no room for them. It is not their grandmother's responsibility to be raising her grandchildren. It is that of the parents. And they have both expressed and requested the desire and the want to live with me. So here I am.
All right. So does the current, well, somebody just logged in. Let me see who it is.
Okay. It might be the grandmother.
I got a hearing at 1:32. It might be done just early. It just says Motorola Moto G Cure, so that doesn't tell me anything. There we go. Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
All right. We started without you. We didn't start until about 10 after, but you were not here.
Yeah, I apologize.
So I asked Mr. Davenport some questions. He's requesting full physical custody of Zoe in Ireland with you maintaining joint legal custody. And he's requesting no child support be ordered. He stated that the children for about 5 months, or since November, about 7 months, have been living with a grandparent. And both children have requested to live with him. I guess, do you agree to an order for Mr. Davenport to have physical custody of the children and that you maintain joint legal custody?
I do not. My girls have actually requested to talk to you or anybody about it. They have told him that they wanted to stay there, but from what I've been told and what they've explained to me is that he's forced it upon them and they're afraid to tell him. And I've told him that through text message.
All right, so
But it
are the
just-
children living with you or are they living with your mother?
Nope. So right now, I asked my mom back in December to take them. So we've seen them, or I've picked them up and stuff. I've gone over there and seen them and stuff. But just so I could get all my paperwork in for housing and just get everything together for all of us. So my mom is basically the only one that because they were going to Morley schools. She's the only one that I fully entrusted with my kids to ask her. So
why did you send them to live with her instead of with their father?
Because they didn't want to live with them. And they've told me that many times. Like I said, I've messaged him to let him know that as well. Just because they've asked if they could talk to somebody.
Yeah,
just
and
because of
maybe it'll get to that point, maybe it won't. The way these work is that the person who files the motion has to prove change in circumstances or proper cause, something to open the door to allow the court to consider changing custody. Which
Okay.
if the children are not living with a parent at this time, not living with the custodial parent, that being you, that's certainly a change in circumstances. Because the last order, if that order gave you physical custody, that anticipates they'll be living with you.
Right.
So that's a change in circumstances, allowing the court to consider a change in custody. So then I have to determine if there's an established custodial environment with the parent who has custody, and apparently there is not because they're not living with that parent. So then that directs the burden of proof to be preponderance of evidence. So I have to prove, is it more beneficial to them than not to have them go live with Mr. Davenport? But I can only consider you and Mr. Davenport. I can't consider a third-party custodian. The law doesn't allow me to plug in friends or other relatives in the place of a parent unless a parent has been determined to be unfit for some reason to care for a child, and unfitness is a pretty tough burden. So if I'm just making this determination between a grandparent and Mr. Davenport, there's really no discussion. He would be the preferable parent. Now, if I'm making that determination between you and Mr. Davenport, that's different because you're the custodial parent on paper, but you haven't had physical custody. It doesn't sound like for about 7 months. So you understand all that?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Even if the children came in and told me, man, we really want to stay with a grandparent over our dad, that's not something I can consider.
May I interject?
Sure.
I do have one of the girls in question here with me. The other one is at her grandparents because she wanted to go spend time with her aunt. If you would like to ask her,
Well,
that is,
I guess I got to be convinced that I'm deciding between the two of you, not between a grandparent and you. Ma'am, are you in any position to have custody of the kids at this time?
I guess I'm not.
So it's been 7 months. You said you had them go live with your mom 7 months ago.
Well, it's
to get a housing voucher, but it doesn't take 7
Yeah.
months to get a housing voucher.
No, not a voucher. I don't know anything about, I don't know how to do all that.
Oh,
It's just been different housings, like Cedars, just all around the counties, different counties and applications. It takes, I don't know, some of them set up to 2 years to be able to file, but it all depends on, how many kids you have and stuff like that, I guess. I haven't filed any here in Newaygo County, but I filed in like Mecosta and all of that.
so do you have any proof that you're actually pursuing housing?
I do not have anything on me. I don't, sir. I do not.
You don't have any information or evidence that would prove Mr. Davenport unfit to raise his children?
The only thing that I would have would be what my children have told me and text messages that, I mean, I don't have on paper.
So,
I mean,
sir, have you had visitation with the kids over the last 7 months or so that they've been living with the grandparent?
Yeah, every weekend that I get them and extras because they would like to be here, so I allow them to.
All right.
Right now, I currently have my youngest with my ex-wife there. Ireland is here.
Why didn't you demand months ago, if you knew the situation was they're living with the grandparent, that they,
Because I gave her, I thought, more than ample time to get on her feet. She was kicked out of her mother's house in April of last year. She has housed my children in a shelter and she has taken them to hotels. And now they're
Yep,
at their grandparents'
before
house.
the hotel.
So she's been essentially homeless since April of last year. She's had well over a year and a half almost to acquire a home.
and so you have a bond with the children, a strong bond?
I believe so. Yes.
All right. Can you explain something that, how you show love and affection for the children?
Well, I spend time with them. I listen to them talk. We horse around a lot. They're very silly individuals. I just took them on vacation to Texas not 2 weeks ago. We spend a lot of time together, hanging out at the house. We play games together.
Who's sought out medical care for the children typically?
It has been up to Lindsay, but that's because she doesn't tell me anything until after the fact.
That is not true. I used to tell you all kinds of stuff. I used to tell you
Keyword
everything.
used to. Keyword
Yes,
used
I
to.
did. Yes, I used to. Absolutely. And then you started being disrespectful, not just to me, but to the girls. Of all the things that you have said to them about me, you guys have called me a witch, that I'm the devil. I mean, they've told me everything. And I've told you this. And then they get in trouble when they're at your house. And then when the next weekend comes, you're nice for the next 2 weekends. And then the next 2 weekends, they tell me the same thing. It sucks.
How old are the children?
They are 14
Zoe is 14
and 12.
and Ireland is 12.
And where do they go to school?
Currently Morley.
They do all right in school?
Not Ireland does great. Zoe, her grandmother and I went to a meeting at their school to have
Zoe
her
has
put in special
autism.
ed. And that has actually been helping since.
All right.
Yeah, she has autism.
Okay.
She is on the spectrum.
She has autism.
And then, sir, who all lives at your house?
I have my wife and our daughter together and my 2 stepkids. So with Zoe in Ireland, it would be 5, but right now it's just the 5 of us total.
How old are those other 3 kids?
They are 13, 11, and 6.
They all get along all right?
Yes.
Do you have any physical or mental conditions that would affect your ability to parent?
No.
Have you ever been convicted of any criminal offenses?
No.
Have you ever been investigated for abuse or neglect of children?
No.
Any domestic violence between the 2 of you?
Yes.
There was with my ex-wife once, but that was not expunged, but it was
No.
hidden to where the court can only see it, I guess. I had to do counseling, which I
It was
passed.
only-
I had my certificate, which was also mailed to the court. And there has not been an incident since. And I believe that was 2012, 2011.
Were either of the children
Yeah,
present?
there was all before that. Yeah,
Were the
yes.
children present?
Yes.
No, not in the
Yes.
vicinity. They were in the household, but not for it.
They
No.
were present in the living room with us. The neighbor opened the door. Yes, the neighbor tried to bust the door down, and that's who called the cops.
That's
And then you
not how
asked
it
them not to
happened, but
place
okay,
the
continue.
handcuffs in front of them, and they agreed.
So, sir, I'd asked if you'd ever been convicted of any criminal offenses.
That's it. I was not convicted. I accepted I guess it would be a plea bargain, and I had to do counseling, which I passed. My certificate of passing that counseling class should be in my files.
All right. So you got the 769 4A treatment?
I don't know what that is, but
It's the
yeah.
domestic violence diversion where you complete probation and programming successfully and then. it
Yes.
gets- All right.
Yes.
No problem since though?
No.
All right. Is there anything else you want to present?
Unless you'd like to hear from Ireland, I do not.
All right, I guess if she's there, I might as well.
All right. Allow me 1 second so I can go get her.
All right, we do that outside the purview of the parents, and I turn off all the YouTube and everything for that, so
I was just gonna
I do
say
record.
as well.
What's that?
I was gonna say as well. I mean, I don't want it to be a fight. I don't want to fight with him. That's all we've ever done. We've never been able to communicate. If that's what my girls say and that's what they really want, and I mean, I just want what makes them happy. So
All right.
I just can't take it anymore with him. And if that's what makes him happy, then I guess we'll see.
What else you want to address?
No, sir.
Ma'am, anything else you want to address? Ms. Davenport, anything else you want to address?
Just what I had told you. That was it.
All right.
I don't.
At this time, then, Mr. Davenport's filed a motion regarding custody. It's kind of a unique situation where the children are not living with either parent. At this time, they've been living with a grandparent for the better part of, well, half a year or more. As I indicated to the parties, the determination would be made between the two of them, not between the father and a third party grandparent. Unless there's parental unfitness or abuse or neglect or some other things that could be proven, which if not, I wouldn't be determining this between a third party. So I asked Mr. Davenport a few questions about his relationship with the children, his ability to provide medical care for the children and look into their education. He has a wife and a daughter and two other children who are his wife's children in the home, and they all get along all right. He doesn't have any medical or physical issues that would affect his ability to parent. One domestic violence from 11 years ago, no problem since. I did interview one of the children, and she was pretty much non-committal about what she'd like to see happen. I didn't get the feeling that she really wanted to choose one situation over the other. She did indicate if she were to be placed primarily with her father, she'd like to see her mother on alternating weekends, and it really doesn't sound like she's had much contact with her mother in quite a while. I guess I don't know. Mom indicated her living situation didn't really allow her to maintain custody of the children at this time. So in order for physical custody with Mr. Davenport would be entered, he's requested joint legal custody. So I'll go along with that. So both parents would still have the right to have input into major decisions, usually medical and educational decisions regarding the children, and both need to be kept up to speed on any and all appointments and conferences and all aspects of education and the medical care of the children. That leaves the parenting time schedule, ma'am. Are you able to accommodate the kids every other weekend even, or really not at this time?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I can.
All right. So where are you living right now then?
Currently I am living at a friend's and White Cloud.
Who's that friend?
I live with James Brown's grandpa and him. And then for a while, we were staying at my friend Tanya's down the road from here as well.
So I guess, do you have sleeping accommodations for the children in the house that you live, or the place that you live in now?
Yes, it's possible. It's 2 bedrooms. It's a 2 bedrooms upstairs. So yes, we do.
So James Brown and his grandfather and you are the people that live there right now?
Yes.
So if James has a bedroom and you have a bedroom and Grandpa has a bedroom, that's 3 out of 2 so far. Where are the girls going to sleep?
Yeah, no, I meant there's 2 upstairs is what I meant. There's 2 bedrooms upstairs.
How many downstairs?
Yeah, we're in one. Me and my son and are in one room. So then they would be in the other room.
So James and his grandpa sleep downstairs and you have the whole upstairs right now with an extra room?
Yes, I could. Well, I could. Yeah. One of the rooms, it's filled with a bunch of boxes and all that stuff. So it's probably easy to clean out. have to get on it.
Okay.
Can I recommend maybe the girls going to their grandmothers and her going there too?
don't
I
know, man.
can't go there.
You can't go to your mother's house?
No, I would not. No, me and my mom have had this conversation before, and my dad, no, I highly doubt that they would let that be. I mean, there's no reason why they can't come here. They've been here before, so.
Okay. So James Brown, what's his grandfather's name?
Joseph Isbell.
I do have an objection with this, and that's mostly due to the fact that James Brown is a known felon, and he was arrested on possession of meth and alcoholism 3 years ago.
3 years ago, yes.
Yes, 3 very short years
You
ago.
had
It was so
gotten a
bad where
driving.
CPS had to contact me to let me know that he is in contact with my children.
That wasn't even it. But I'm not doing this with you. This is what we do every time. I said, look, if that's what makes the girls happy, then I'm not arguing with you anymore. I cannot take it anymore. The things that you say, the belittlement, the things that you say about our children, I can't do it anymore. If that's what makes them happy, Michael, then that's what makes them happy. But for you to always try for the last 10 years to tell me where and when and what I can do with my children, it's not okay. They've been nothing but safe here. It's been proven safe here. That's why there wasn't a case. It's been proven safe anywhere. So I'm not going to put them in harm's way. I never have and I never will.
That was my only objection to that. Anywho.
Okay. All right. Based on the evidence presented and the, I've already made a determination and placed it on the record regarding custody, legal custody, physical custody. Mr. Davenport's child support would stop effective June 1st. And he's not requesting child support at this time, so there would not be an obligation for Ms. Davenport to pay. Her parenting time would be alternating weekends. The only restriction I'll put on that is that Michael, Mr. Davenport, may do a cursory inspection of the accommodations prior to the first visit. And then it would be every other weekend thereafter. So, ma'am, you get that room together and let him know, and then give him reasonable notice, and then you can start your every other weekend the next weekend at that residence. But he's got to have the right to take a look at the accommodations beforehand, make sure they're acceptable.
Okay, well, then I will try to figure something else out because I can't. I don't agree with that part just because of the history between him and I. It's just not.
I'm welcome to have a peace officer with us if that would make things better.
That's not even it. That's not even it, Michael, and that's not it.
I believe
Right.
that is it.
That's what the order is going to state. I guess in the alternative, you can do the parenting time at your parents' house, but I don't want it to be just anywhere. It's got to be either your established residence that he has a little bit of concern with, and I'll let him do a walkthrough of the bedroom.
Sir, he's going to have a concern with anything. It doesn't matter what it is.
Or you can do it at your parents' house, one or the other, but I'll put those in the order. Other than that, I guess we're all set. Petition to terminate the parental rights.
Awesome. Thank you.
The date and time set for hearing in this matter. At the last hearing, the department had requested the authority to file a petition to terminate the parental rights of Ashton Wiltz to the minor children. And that permission for the motion was granted and set for trial today. It was set for 1:30. It's now 1:45. There are a number of witnesses, but Ms. Wiltz has not appeared in the Zoom waiting room, I guess. The hallway is empty, so we will proceed. She was served by posting. There's proof of service in the file from 5/27/23 at 10:46 a.m. Notice was posted. All right, and to that end, I would note that Mr. Salasina is here on behalf of the department. Mr. Schropp is here on behalf of Ashton Wiltz, and Ms. Barco is here on behalf of the children as guardian ad litem. The father is deceased, so he's not represented, obviously. So at this time, Mr. Salasina, do you have any opening comments?
I don't have an opening comment, but I have a couple of preliminary matters, Your Honor. First, Ms. Amanda Dykehouse is here from Salvation Army Turning Point. The information that she has is health protected information, but it's different than standard health protected information because they're a substance abuse treatment center. So under 42 USC section 2.64, I'd ask the court find that good cause exists to enter an order allowing her to testify to the health protected information she has regarding Ms. Wiltz and her substance abuse treatment program, as other ways of obtaining the information are not available or otherwise not be effective, and that good cause exists to enter this an order requiring her to testify as the public interest in protecting the welfare of the minor children in this case paramount here because this is a child protective proceeding, and the protection of the children from abuse or neglect outweighs the potential injury to the respondent mother, the relationship between the respondent mother and any sort of treating physician, and substance abuse treatment services in general.
Any other preliminary matters you want to address? No? Mr. Schropp, any opening statements?
No, I would waive opening, Your Honor. I have attempted to contact my client. Just for the record, the number we had didn't go through and the mailbox was full. And I did try to contact her by correspondence dated May 31st. So at this point, I've had no contact with her. But I guess in light of that, I do have the file. I've reviewed it. I was recently subbed in on this case, but I am ready to proceed. I would waive opening.
All right, Ms. Barco?
I'll waive, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Salcino, your first witness?
My first witness, if I could, would be Amanda K. Dykehouse from Salvation Army Turning
I
Point.
would find that good cause exists to order the testimony regarding health protected information, as other avenues of discovery do not exist, and disclosure is necessary to protect the minor children in this case, said protection being paramount to the potential injury to Ms. Wiltz due to disclosure of the information. Is that sufficient paraphrasing?
I think that should be sufficient, Your Honor. If Turning Point has any other statements, I'll miss if Rachel could weigh in there.
All right, what do you need from me?
Was my order to testify in light of the health protected information sufficient?
I think so, yes.
All right, very good. We're all set for the witness then. Go ahead, Mr.
And
Salcino.
who's your employer, Ms. Dykehouse?
Salvation Army Turning Point program.
And what do you do for them?
I am a licensed practical nurse there.
And what is Salvation Army Turning Point?
It's a substance abuse treatment program, medical detox.
Okay. And through your employment at Salvation Army Turning Point, are you familiar with an Ashton Wiltz?
Yes,
How are you familiar with Miss Wiltz?
she is a former client.
Okay. When did she begin her treatment with Salvation Army Turning Point?
On the 21st of November, 2022.
And when did she end her treatment with Salvation Army Turning Point?
On November 27th, 2022.
Why was Miss Wilt seeking treatment at Salvation Army Turning Point?
She was there for substance abuse treatment, specifically for opiates and cocaine, to my knowledge.
Did Miss Wilt successfully complete the program at Salvation Army Turning Point?
She left on her own regards on the 27th. It was not a complete, to my knowledge.
Okay. Do you know why Miss Wiltz left the program?
That I do not know.
Since that date in November of 2022, when Miss Wiltz left the program, have you had any contact with her?
No.
Okay. From her initial intake at Salvation Army Turning Point until her leaving Salvation Army Turning Point, what services were provided to Miss Wiltz?
She was in the medical detox portion during that time.
Did she successfully detox at that point?
I don't know if she completed the detox or not.
Okay. And what's involved in a medically supervised detox?
We monitor symptoms and vitals, and we can administer medications based on symptoms. And we also use medications to assist with specific substance detox.
Okay.
Specifically, yeah.
Okay. To your knowledge, was Miss Wilt provided with any medications to help her detox?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. Do you know what those medications were?
I don't know all of them. We have a number of medications that we use.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Dykehouse. I have no further questions for you.
Mr. Schropp, any questions?
So you don't know for sure whether she completed the program, the detox, or not?
She did not complete the program. I am not positive if she completed detox or not right off the top of my head.
Okay, so had she completed detox, then there's at least a step two, a secondary step after that?
Correct.
Okay.
They
and
would
that would
move on.
again be at your, so that would be at your facility?
Correct.
All right, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Ms. Barco, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, and ma'am, you said she left on the 27th, so November 27th?
Correct.
And she got there what day?
The 21st.
So she was there less than 1 week?
Correct, Your Honor.
And what was is there a standard length of time to complete the program? Is it like a 90-day program, or does it vary depending on the individual?
It can vary. The medical detox for opiates specifically is usually 5 to 7 days.
So then there's aftercare, substance abuse treatment, basically rewiring, stuff like that?
Correct.
All right, and that takes how long?
We are a short-term residential program once you complete detox. So generic stay is 7 to 14 days for the residential program portion.
All right, and she was there 6 or 7 days?
Correct.
Okay. But she did not meet the milestones that would be considered a successful completion of the program?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor.
No.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. You're all
Next
set.
witness, Your Honor, I'd like to call Miss Amy Knapp, if I could. And is the information that you have otherwise health protected information?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this point, I'd like the court to direct Ms. Knapp to testify to any health protected information she has regarding Ms. Wilt on information belief. Ms. Knapp attempted treatment of Ms. Wilt, and the information she has is relevant to today's proceeding.
All right, I'll just read the same waiver and find that good cause exists to order the testimony regarding health protected information as other avenues of discovery do not exist and disclosure. This is necessary to protect minor children in this case, said protection being paramount to potential injury to Ms. Wiltz due to the disclosure of the information.
How are you familiar with her?
She was a referral that I received on February the 7th.
And how did you make contact with Ms. Wiltz on February 7th?
Correct.
And what year was that?
2023
And how did you make your initial contact with Ms. Wiltz?
by phone
And what was the purpose of that initial contact?
to schedule an appointment.
Okay. Was an appointment for Ms. Wiltz scheduled?
Yes.
When was that appointment scheduled for?
February the 16th, 2023.
And did Ms. Wiltz attend that appointment?
No, she canceled that appointment.
Okay. Were any attempts made to schedule a follow-up appointment?
Yes.
What did you do to schedule a follow-up appointment?
By text.
Okay. And was a follow-up appointment scheduled?
Yes.
What was the date of that follow-up appointment?
February 24th, 2023.
Did Ms. Wiltz attend that February 24th, 2023 appointment?
No.
Did you make any attempts to follow up on that missed appointment with a subsequent appointment?
Yes.
How did you do that?
By text and phone.
And what was the result?
We scheduled for March 10th, 2023.
Did Ms. Wiltz attend that March 10th, 2023 appointment?
No.
What did you do as a result of her not showing up on March 10th of 2023?
Another appointment was scheduled
Okay. When was that appointment scheduled for?
March 17th, 2023.
And how was that appointment made? And as a result of that, what happened to the counselor or therapist client relationship with Ashton Wills?
It was discharged. She was discharged on April 2nd, 2023.
Okay. Have you had any contact with Ms. Wilt since?
No.
And what was the purpose of the services that you were to provide as a therapist for Wedgwood Christian Services to Ms. Wilts?
Ms. Wilts needed an SUD assessment,
And what's an SUD assessment?
substance use disorder assessment.
Okay. And so you were going to provide that to her?
Correct.
And to your knowledge, at least through your program, Ms. Wilts never completed that substance abuse disorder assessment?
Correct.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Knapp. I have no further questions.
Mr. Schropp?
Do you schedule these appointments yourself, or do you have a staff or secretary who does it?
I do. I schedule myself.
Okay, so you spoke with her personally on the phone.
Correct.
Did she offer any explanation as to why she had to cancel these appointments?
The first time it was for a doctor's appointment, and the second time it was because her internet didn't work. But the other
Right.
2 times she just failed to show up with no response.
All right, thank you. I have nothing further then.
Ms. Barco, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You're all set.
Your Honor, for my next witness, I'd like to call Ms. Bridget Lemberg. And who's your employer, Ms. Lemberg?
I am the lab director and toxicologist at Forensic Fluids Laboratories in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
And how long have you been a toxicologist?
I got my master's degree in toxicology in 1987. So since then,
And have you ever testified as an expert witness in the area of toxicology in any court in the state of Michigan?
absolutely.
And how many courts have you approximately testified in as an expert witness in the area of toxicology?
Probably 70% of the counties in the state of Michigan.
Okay. And what does it test oral fluid for?
In the case of Michigan DHHS, they have a panel of illicit and prescription medications that they would like us to test all their donors for.
Okay. Are you familiar with a donor by the name of Ashton Wilts?
Yes, I am.
Have any of the samples tested by Forensic Fluids Laboratories been positive for any substances?
Yes, we have 2 negatives and 13 positives.
At this point, Your Honor, I would like to move to admit Ms. Lemberg as an expert witness in the area of toxicology. I think through my questions, I've established her credibility as an expert witness in this field.
Mr. Schropp?
I have her CV and heard the testimony. I would not object.
Ms. Barco?
In the meantime, Mr. Salcina, I do have the records that you're going to be admitting, and I have reviewed them as well. I wouldn't object if you would maybe have your witness summarize them. I do have them as proposed exhibits, so rather than going through each one, I know we've done this before with identification. Unless you feel it's necessary.
No, I don't. Ms. Barco, are you there?
Ms. Barco's back.
Sorry,
Um,
can you hear me?
yes, Mr. Sells proposed Ms. Blumberg as an expert in the area of toxicology. I was wondering if you had any objection.
I do not object.
All right, that'd be so noted for the record.
Thank you. Ms. Lemberg, you mentioned that there were some positive screens for Ms. Wilts. What's your most recent and date positive screen for Ms. Wilts?
So the last test that we received was collected January 19th, 2023.
And what was that test positive for?
And this sample initially screened positive for amphetamine, methamphetamine, marijuana, cocaine, and fentanyl. And upon further testing in our LC-MS-MS, it confirmed positive for methamphetamine at 21.4 nanogram per mil. It also confirmed positive for amphetamine, a metabolite of methamphetamine, at 10.8 nanogram per mil. The marijuana also confirmed positive for parent delta 9 THC at 1.2 nanogram per mil. The cocaine confirmed positive for parent cocaine at 4.1 nanogram per mil. BZE, a metabolite of cocaine, at 24.0 nanogram per mil. EME, another metabolite of cocaine, at 3.8 nanogram per mil. The sample also confirmed positive for fentanyl by LC-MS-MS for parent fentanyl at 64.8 nanogram per mil. And we also found norfentanyl, a metabolite of fentanyl, at 9.1 nanogram per mil.
Did Ms. Wiltz have any prescription medications that could explain the positives for at least some of these substances?
There was nothing listed on the paperwork that we
So
received.
you mentioned that there were multiple positive screens, I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
13.
13 in total. Were those screens pretty consistent for THC, cocaine, and fentanyl?
Correct. Yes, they all contain cocaine and fentanyl. The majority of them contain THC.
Okay. And there were at least 2 tests that tested positive for amphetamine and methamphetamine. Is that correct?
Correct. The last 2 we received tested positive for methamphetamine.
Okay. To your knowledge, was Ms. Wiltz offered some drug screens that she refused?
I don't know. We don't collect the samples. We're in Kalamazoo, so you might have to ask Stephanie Smoes or Trisha Parker that question.
All right. So at any point in time of any of the samples that you tested, were there any substances prescribed, at least listed on the donor form, that could explain any of these positive test results for the samples that Ashton Wiltz provided?
There was not.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lundberg. I have no further question.
Mr. Schwab?
I'm looking through your list. I have the copies, ma'am. Do you recall the last time that Miss Wiltz tested negative for fentanyl?
Yes.
I assume there were a couple.
September 2nd, 2022, a sample was collected and it was negative.
And last test was this past January, so it's been about 5 months since you've had any test results or any specimens to test.
Correct.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Ma'am, is there any legal substance that she could have been prescribed that would result in a positive test for methamphetamine?
Unfortunately, there is a diet drug that is a prescription for methamphetamine. So yes, you can get all of those: marijuana, cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl as prescriptions.
Okay. Cocaine too?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've seen cocaine gel given as a topical anesthetic.
Okay, and that could result in a positive test?
Well, you'd have to ingest a few vials of gel, but yes.
Is that recommended?
I don't think that's the way it was intended.
That wouldn't be a legal use of that prescription anyway. All right, I don't have any other questions for this witness. Anything else for Ms. Blumberg or Ms. Lundberg?
No, Your Honor.
No. Okay, you're all set, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. If I could, I'd like to call Miss Alicia Harris. And what do you do for them?
I am a substance use counselor there.
And so is any of the information that you have health protected information?
Yes.
How are you familiar with her?
She was referred to treatment with me on 2 separate treatment episodes or occasions.
What was the first of those situations?
The first one, there was an intake completed on June 9th of 2022. And then I attempted to schedule with Miss Wiltz.
What occurs during that process?
So we have an intake specialist that goes through and completes a brief screening that helps us determine level of care.
What happens as a result of that screening?
So then the client is referred to a clinician, and then the clinician attempts to contact the client to schedule an appointment.
Were you able to successfully schedule any sort of appointments with Miss Wills?
I attempted 2 times. I wasn't able to reach her. I contacted the DHHS worker, and she informed me that Miss Wiltz had gone to inpatient treatment.
Okay. And so for your first instance with her, basically it involved doing an assessment, like an intake assessment, and then trying to schedule follow-up services. Is that correct?
Correct. Just the intake was completed.
Okay. You mentioned that there was a second instance that you had with Miss Wiltz. Is that correct?
That's correct.
When did that occur?
I scheduled with Miss Wiltz for an appointment. We had an appointment on September 23rd of 2022.
And what was the purpose of that appointment?
So an assessment had been completed at the inpatient treatment, so we didn't need to do an assessment. So Miss Wiltz and I completed some treatment planning, some goals.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to review that assessment that had been prepared by the inpatient treatment program?
I did have access to that assessment. I contacted the inpatient treatment and they sent it to me.
What sort of treatment did Miss Wiltz require at that time?
So after completing the inpatient, we were recommending weekly outpatient services. And this would be, I work in a different county, so it was through telehealth.
Okay. And what was Miss Wiltz being treated for, or what was it recommended that she be treated for at that time?
For substance use disorder.
Okay. Was there any specific substances that Miss Wiltz was using at that time?
When she came to me after inpatient, she was not currently actively using.
Okay. So you had one appointment with Miss Wiltz on September 23rd of 2022?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any follow-up to that appointment?
Yes. So we scheduled an appointment for September 30th, and Miss Wiltz missed that appointment.
Okay. Did Miss Wiltz engage in any appointments after the 9/30/2022 missed appointment?
She did not.
Okay. What attempts did you make to engage with Miss Wiltz?
I attempted to contact the client to reschedule after she missed September 30th, and we rescheduled for October 5th, which she also missed that appointment.
Was Miss Wiltz discharged from your program after that point?
She was discharged after a 14-day letter was sent and attempts to schedule were made.
Did Miss Wiltz attend the recommended weekly sessions with yourself?
She did not.
Okay. And to your knowledge, and this is only if you're knowledgeable, do you know, was she attending those services with another clinician? And it's okay if you don't know.
I don't know that.
Are there any additional, did you have any additional contacts with Miss Wiltz after she was discharged from your program?
I did not, no.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Harris. I have no further questions.
Thanks.
Mr. Schwab, any questions?
What was the term of your treatment plan with Ms. Wiltz?
What was the term?
Yeah, how long? How many
Oh,
sessions?
well, our treatment plan would go for, it would be like 90-day treatment plan, but we only had one session.
So once a week over a period of 90 days?
Yes.
Okay. And you said the first one was canceled because she did go to, or you were told she did go to a rehab program inpatient? The June
For the
9th?
first, yeah, for the first treatment episode, I wasn't able to contact her and I was told she went to inpatient treatment.
And when she came to your program, she was clean and sober?
Yes, she was reporting no use at that time.
Good. Right. Thank you. I have nothing further.
Ms. Barco, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
So, ma'am, you said she was, not actively using, at that time, and you're talking about the 23rd?
Right, and that's the only contact I had with her.
All right. So when you make that determination that she was not actively using, is that based on her telling you that, or is there some other methodology for determining that?
Right, I should say that was based on the client report at that time.
Okay.
I guess,
No.
Your Honor, I have a follow-up to that.
Yeah.
Would it surprise you if Ms. Wiltz had subsequent positive drug screens after that September 23rd, 2022 meeting with you?
I mean, I guess that would be hard for me to answer. I would be speculating to guess if she would have positive drug screens.
Okay. But if I told you there were in fact positive drug screens, would that surprise you?
Well, I asked, I think it's asked and answered.
I
And
don't
I would
know
agree, it's also speculative.
I don't even know if it's relevant. So, I mean, she
All right.
remember one time, it probably wouldn't surprise her because she deals with people that have substance abuse problems all the time, and some probably recover and some don't. So, I just don't think it's relevant to this case. Mr. Salstein, any other questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. You're all set.
Thank you.
For my next witness, Your Honor, I'd like to call Ms. Tricia Parker. And how are you familiar with Ms. Ashton Wiltz?
I was a CPS ongoing worker for the family.
And when did you begin working with the family?
I began working with the family after the investigation concluded, so that would have been February 2022.
And when did your contact with the family end?
I filed a petition for removal of June 16th, 2022.
Why were you involved with the family in 2022?
I was initially involved with the family as the department received allegations on February 7th of 2022 that Devin and Ashton were observed passed out, slumped over in the front seat of their vehicle while their children were present. That investigation was initially substantiated for improper supervision, as we did have enough evidence to show that did occur, and that there were like 15 syringes and, other substance use concerns for the parents.
Okay. What services did you attempt to provide to Ms. Wiltz during your involvement with the case?
So as far as the CPS ongoing case, we did family team meetings, True North, gas cards, random drug screening, substance use referrals to Arbor Circle and Wedgwood. I provided information to get her birth certificate from Alaska. She also reported to me that she was working with Big Rapids Family Healthcare for their Suboxone program, and then also safety planning with the family.
Did Ms. Wiltz engage in the services that were offered to her by the department at that time?
She did not.
Okay. Why did you feel it was necessary to file a petition asking for the removal of the children in this case?
Due to the continued concerns of substance use, disregard of safety plans, instability of housing at that time, they did leave the Hesperia area where they were staying and reported staying in Muskegon. They also were reporting that they were using substances daily while the children were obviously in their care because they were in Muskegon and not using their relatives as a safety plan. So there was a risk of harm to the children due to the substance use, ongoing improper supervision concerns, with more paraphernalia found in the vehicle in April of 2022 by a police department, and then just the lack of participation in services and disregard for those safety plans.
Okay. Were you involved with the family after you'd filed that petition?
I was not. I do recall that we attempted to do a family team meeting. I can't recall off the top of my head if that was held. I do know that we transferred it to foster care.
Okay. And to your knowledge, while you were involved with the case, had Ms. Wiltz engaged in a substance abuse treatment at that time?
She did not. I confirmed with Wedgwood that she never, well, I take that back. I did make a Wedgwood referral, and then I was with Miss Wiltz at a visit when Wedgwood called her, rescheduling her her first initial phone intake, and it was reported that she did complete that. However, I never received one. And then Arbor Circle also confirmed with me that they attempted to reschedule with her 3 times and were no longer going to provide her services because she did not show on those 3 occasions. She did participate in drug screening with me, but other than that, I confirmed with Family Healthcare in Big Rapids that she did not attend that appointment. So to my knowledge, she really attended no substance use treatment during my case.
Okay. Did Miss Wiltz complete all the drug screens that you attempted to provide her with?
She did.
Okay. And were any of those screens positive for substances?
They were cocaine and fentanyl.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Parker. I have no further questions.
Mr. Schott?
When did your services or your involvement with Miss Wiltz end?
I filed a petition on June 16th of 2022, so I would have been done probably pretty quick shortly after.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Ms. Barco?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
For my next witness, Your Honor, if I could, I'd like to call Michael Eitenand. How are you involved in the case of the Sartwell minors?
Okay. I was given the case as a CPS investigation on February 7th as a referral.
And that was February 7th of what year?
2022.
And what were you assigned to investigate?
The law enforcement found Ashton and Devin. They were passed out, slumped over with syringes and other drug paraphernalia in the front seat of their car. And the 2 children were in the back seat. Law enforcement confiscated the drugs, and they made the place report, and I completed the referral and completed the first drug assessment, and then did the ongoing referral over to Tricia.
Okay. So at that point, was Miss Wiltz cooperative with your investigation?
Yes, she was cooperative.
Okay. What did you assess was the risk of harm to the children at that time?
There was a risk throughout the whole time, and they were living with Barry, which was Devin's dad at the time frame. That's Ashton's. It was her boyfriend, and that was up there in Hesperia, and as long as they were living there, they had someone to care for the children. Throughout my investigation, that was where they continued to live. It was shortly after my investigation, they wound up moving and going to Muskegon.
Okay. Have you had any contact with the family since your investigation in February of 2022?
I have not, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Actona. I have no further questions.
Mr. Pratt?
I have no questions.
Ms. Barco?
No questions.
All right, thank you, sir. You're all set.
Okay, thank you.
For my next witness, Your Honor, I'd like to call Ms. Stephanie Smose.
All right.
And when did you become involved with the family?
I became involved on June 16, 2022, when the case was transferred to foster care.
Okay. And during your time as the foster care worker for the family, what services were provided to Ms. Wiltz?
case management services, family supportive services, random drug screens, supervised parenting time, transportation assistance, gas cards, Visa gift card, referral to Wedgwood Christian Services, referral to inpatient substance abuse services, a referral to sober living, referral to outpatient substance abuse services, individual counseling services through Wedgwood, family team meetings, trauma assessments for the minor children, Secretary of State payment voucher, and Eastside Outpatient Services, which is a methadone clinic.
Okay. What, when you took on the case, what did you assess were the barriers to reunifying Ms. Wiltz with her children?
Substance abuse, transportation, communication, housing. I believe that was all at the beginning of the case.
Okay. Were the services that were offered to Ms. Wiltz designed to help her overcome those barriers to reunification?
Yes.
How?
Some of the services, such as the random drug screens, inpatient, outpatient services, detox, those were all to help with her substance abuse. And then counseling was to help with her mental health. That was later identified as a barrier. Transportation assistance to get to parenting time, different services offered. And then the Secretary of State payment voucher was for Ms. Wiltz to maintain her license as her license was expired.
Did Ms. Wiltz comply with and benefited from the services that were offered to her?
She did comply with some, but not all.
What were the services that Ms. Wiltz complied with?
Detox at the Odyssey House in Flint on 7/11 of 2022, where she then entered treatment again at the same facility, the Odyssey House, on 7/15/2022. She then was transported by the department to Sisters of Sobriety, which is a sober living, and she had stayed there initially from 8/16/2022. From 8/22/2022, she left, and then she did come back on 8/25/2022 and stayed a month until 9/25/2022. She also complied with some drug screens. She has complied with the Eastside Outpatient Services as well.
Which services did Ms. Wiltz not comply with?
She did not attend appointments as testified earlier. Although she was in sober living, she did leave it twice. She didn't complete the counseling services through Wedgwood. She didn't complete the treatment services through Salvation Army Turning Point. She did not attend the trauma assessments for the children. She did not fix her barrier to transportation. She never went to Secretary of State to get her license. And she has not participated in parenting time since, I would have to look at the exact date, but I believe that was in November of 2022.
What efforts have you made to engage Ms. Wiltz in services?
I have made multiple referrals. I have tried reaching out to Ms. Wiltz with the latest date of being May 31. I did send Ms. Wiltz a message. She did read the message but did not respond. I have texted her with no response. We did have a meeting set on 3/31, which Ms. Wiltz did not show up to that meeting. I have tried to go to the last place I knew she was living to try to make contact and was not able to do that.
Is it your assessment that Ms. Wiltz has overcome the barriers to reunification at this time?
No.
Why do you say that?
Ms. Wiltz has not been communicating with the department. She's not able to provide and ensure adequate and stable housing, food, transportation, medical care. She has not successfully attended like counseling for her mental health. She's still using substances. Ms. Wiltz has failed to properly accept, extend, and engage in and implement information, training, recommendations, and services. And as mentioned just a moment ago, her lack of participation in mental health and substance abuse treatment.
It was testified to earlier that Ms. Wilt's last positive drug screen from forensic fluids occurred in January of 2023. Have you attempted to drug screen Ms. Wilt since that time?
Yes.
What happened when you attempted to drug screen Ms. Wilt after January of 2023?
I have attempted to screen Ms. Wiltz on 1/25/2023, February 3rd, 2023, February 13th, 2023, February 24th, 2023, March 3rd, 2023, March 9, 2023, and Ms. Wiltz never responded to my request to screen her.
Do you know why Ms. Wiltz refused those screens?
I do not.
Objection, speculation.
I asked her if she
Unless
knows.
she told her.
She knows.
She already answered it. She said she didn't know, so.
What's the risk of harm if the children were to be returned to Ms. Wiltz today?
Due to Ms. Wiltz not reducing the barriers, the children would be have a risk of improper housing, transportation, continued substance use, and instability.
Okay. Are you the individual that filed the petition requesting termination of Ms. Wilt's parental rights?
Yes, I am.
Why do you believe termination of parental rights would be in the best interest of the children?
As mentioned numerous times, Ms. Wiltz has not reduced the barriers such as housing, transportation, substance use, parenting education, or had consistent visits with her children. Ms. Wiltz is still utilizing illegal substances, and there would be a risk of harm returning the children to her care. Safety plans were unsuccessful in the past, and without the barriers being reduced or eliminated, risk continues. And the children's relative caregivers who the children have been placed with are willing to adopt the children and provide them with permanency.
Okay. And who's the relative caregivers?
Tanya and John Bradfield.
Okay. And how are they related to the children?
They are, Miss Tanya Bradfield is the sister of Devin Servo.
And they've expressed a willingness to adopt the children?
They have.
At this point in time, do you think additional time would be beneficial to helping Ms. Wiltz eliminate the barriers to reunification?
I do not.
Why is that?
Ms. Wiltz is refusing to communicate with the department, work with the department. She hasn't successfully completed really any of her barriers. And at this point, Ms. Wiltz is not making any efforts to reduce the barriers.
Now, was Ms. Wiltz provided with information as to how to reduce those barriers?
Yes.
And was that in the form of services provided to Ms. Wiltz?
Yes.
Are we any closer to reunifying Ms. Wiltz with her children today than we were when you took over the case?
No.
Why do you say that?
Again, Ms. Wiltz has not made any progress with the barriers that led to the removal of the children in the first place.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Smoose. I have no further questions for you.
Mr. Schropp, any questions?
Yes, has Ms. Wiltz been allowed visitation since last November?
The department has reached out to Ms. Wiltz numerous times to ask about parenting time or visits, and Ms. Wiltz just did not respond. And she has not been responding to even talk about visits.
So it hasn't been denied or suspended by you or the courts.
I believe it was suspended by the court.
Okay, and when was that?
I would have to look up that specific date.
Safe to say it's been for at least the last 3 months. Her visitation rights have been suspended.
I believe so.
Okay. So the fact that she's not visiting isn't really of any fault or concern of hers or anything she's done. It's court ordered.
That is correct, but she has not reached out to ask about her children or anything.
The Odyssey House detox, she successfully completed that?
She did.
Okay. And then she moved on to sober living, which took place over a period of over a month, I see, from 8/22 to 9/25.
She entered sober living on 8/16 of 2022 and stayed until 8/22/2022. She then left, and then she came back on 8/25/2022 and stayed a month until 9/25/2022.
And when she left on 9/25, had she completed the program?
She did not.
Okay. What was the duration or the term of that program?
I do not have a specific time that she was going to stay. However, she did plan on staying a few months.
Okay. So during that duration, did she maintain sobriety?
After she left on 8/22, she relapsed, and then on 9/25/2022, there was an incident, and she had left and relapsed again.
Okay. And have you had contact with her since that time, 9/25?
Yes.
And has she expressed any interest in going back, any type of a rehab program?
She did, yes.
And was that the Wedgwood program?
Wedgwood was one of them. There were a few different programs that she was interested in going to.
Okay. And did she actually go back to detox then at one point? I think it was earlier testimony.
Yes, I believe she did go to the Salvation Army Turning Point.
Okay, and Turning Point, right, and completed 6 days there, correct?
Correct.
All right. Since this last review date, which was February 15th of 23, just past February, you said there's been 3 requests for drug tests?
Yes.
Okay, and how did you request them? By phone, by text, by email?
By text message, as her mailbox was full, so I could not leave her a message.
Okay, and are you confident in the number you're using to text her?
That was the last number she provided me.
Okay. And did you get absolutely no response to those 3?
Correct, no response.
Can you tell if they've been read?
Not text messages, no.
And you didn't try any other postal service, any other phone calls, or anything any other means of contacting her about testing?
I did show up in person to the house that she was staying at and had no contact. And I had reached out to make appointments with her to meet, and she did not show up to that appointment. And then I had reached out on the department's Facebook to her.
I think in what you've listed earlier in your direct testimony, there have been only 3 requests for tests, and the last one was in the month of March. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I have nothing further.
Let's see. Ms. Barco, any questions?
Just a couple, Your Honor. So just some clarification for the suspension of parenting time, Ms. Smooth. I have the court order dated 2/15 of 23 that I'm looking at. At that time, it was ordered that parenting time was to be supervised until further order of the court. Does that sound correct to you? Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay, and then I have the subsequent order dated 5/3 of 23 that allowed the department to file their termination petition. And at that time, parenting time was suspended. Does that sound correct to you? Was that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. So based on that information, parenting time was not suspended until 5/3 of 2023.
Correct.
Okay. And up until 5/3 of 23, had Ms. Wiltz reached out to you for any parenting time, say from January 1st of 23 to May 3rd of 23? Did Ms. Wiltz reach out regarding parenting time at all?
She did not, no.
Okay. I don't think I have any further questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Any other questions for this witness?
Well, if I may, ma'am, Ms. Most, was there any prior suspensions that you're aware of? I mean, earlier during my questioning, you said you thought it was court ordered suspended at least over the last 6 months. Was that incorrect?
I guess that was incorrect. I guess I was confused by your question. I do remember Mr. Mike Paige stating that Miss Wiltz needed to be cleaned from fentanyl. However, I did offer her to screen and to attend parenting time, and I did not get any response from her.
And is that these last 3 tests we were talking about, the last 3 requests?
Yes.
Or prior to February?
I had requested prior to February as well.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
All right. If there's nothing else for this witness, ma'am, you're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Salasina, any further evidence at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Schropp, any further evidence at this time?
In light of my client's failure to appear, no, Your Honor, I have nothing further to offer.
Ms. Barco, any further evidence at this time?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Salasina, do you have any closing arguments?
I do, Your Honor. As this court's well aware, this court can terminate a parent's parental rights pursuant to MCL 712A.19B. 3, the court may terminate a parent's parental rights to a child if the court finds by clear and convincing evidence one or more of the following. Under subsection CI, the parent was a respondent in a proceeding brought under this chapter. 182 or more days have elapsed since the issuance of an initial dispositional order, and the court, by clear and convincing evidence, finds either of the following. Under subsection CI, the condition that led to adjudication continues to exist, and there is no reasonable likelihood that the conditions will be rectified. In this case, Ms. Wiltz has untreated substance abuse issues, homelessness, untreated mental health issues, lack of stability within the home itself. You've heard from a series of witnesses here about the services that were provided to Ms. Wiltz to help her overcome those barriers, such as substance abuse treatment, sober living, substance abuse assessments, various therapies, drug screenings. However, despite all of these efforts, Ms. Wiltz has failed to comply with those services fully and benefit from those services to the point that the conditions that led to adjudication have been overcome in this matter. In fact, I think we may be in an even worse position than we were at the beginning of the case. At least at that point, Ms. Wiltz was willing to have communications with the department. At this point, Ms. Wiltz has ceased communications, ceased completing services, at least to the knowledge of the department and the evidence presented here today, and the barriers remain in place. Further, because those barriers remain in place, the children would be at risk of harm if returned to the care and custody of Ms. Wiltz at this time, due to improper supervision, due to Ms. Wiltz' continued substance abuse and untreated mental health, as well as her lack of housing and stability within the home. For those reasons, Your Honor, we believe that there are 2 statutory grounds, which I've cited, that would support termination of Ms. Wiltz' parental rights to her minor children. Further, once the court finds that grounds for termination of parental rights exist, it needs to make a finding based on the preponderance of evidence on the whole record that termination of parental rights is in the best interest of the children. Here, as already stated, the barriers to reunification continue to exist and present a threat to the children. Further, the children have been placed with a relative caregivers, an aunt and uncle, who are willing to provide permanency for the children through the permanency planning goal of adoption. The parents have been the children have been placed with those relative caregivers for the duration of this case. And further, there has really, during the duration of the case, hasn't been parenting time engaged in by Ms. Wiltz to maintain the parent-child bond. For those reasons, Your Honor, we believe that termination of parental rights is in the best interest of the Sartwell minors in this case, and this court should order that the parental rights of Ms. Wiltz be terminated and that the children be made available for adoption.
Mr. Schropp.
Well, first off, I point out, Your Honor, the minor children involved here are ages 8 and 6. So there is a lot of time that can still be expended on Ms. Wiltz, I believe, to try to resolve these barriers. Also, the record indicates that she did complete 1 detox session, and The other one, they said she didn't complete, its duration was 5 to 7 days and she completed 6. So, I mean, she must have been awfully close there. She went 6 weeks in sober living, was sober. I did contact the next rehab because she did relapse, which we know is very common in these type of cases, at least once. So she did make some efforts. And as I recall, because I filled in for Mr. Janice back on the 15th, my notes indicated the court was presented with a request for termination and it was denied for the reason that some more opportunities, there was still some more time, and we stressed, and I stressed in my notes that that Ms. Wiltz really invests in maintaining or getting sober and maintaining her sobriety. And so far since that date, the only testimony is 3 attempts to test her, the last one being in March, so 2.5 months ago, just before there's even been attempts to contact her to test to see if she has maintained her sobriety. And I'm aware of very little services that have been offered over that period of time either. So I would say the department didn't meet their burden, which the court stressed to them that they try to, again, get her involved in some type of a substance abuse program. So in light of those factors, I would ask the court to deny the petition and give her another 90 days in which to, first off, for the department to contact her. I don't think one attempt to her home in Ravenna was really knocking the door down. So more attempts to contact her, and certainly one last chance to get herself into a program and maintain sobriety, because clearly she's done it in the past. We ask the court to deny the petition.
Ms. Barco?
Your Honor, I unfortunately agree with the department fully at this time. These kids are very young. They've had little to no contact with their mother since this case started. They've also lost their father to drug use since this case started. I've met with them at school several times. They never talk about their mom. They never talk about their dad. I think it's taken them a while to adjust, not a while to adjust to their placement. I think that to throw Miss Wiltz back in the mix at this point would be detrimental to them. She has not maintained sobriety for any amount of time that I'm aware of throughout this case, because yes, she was in sober living, but she was also caught with drugs and drug paraphernalia once, if not twice, while in the sober living. One of the last hearings we had when she was living in Ravenna, she testified that she was a part of a methadone or Suboxone clinic, and I believe you directed her to sign a release for Miss Smooth to access those records, which obviously she never did. So I just think it's in the best interest of the children to kind of start their life, because I don't see Miss Wiltz changing in 90 days. You gave her 90 days before when the department requested when Miss Wiltz attorney requested 90 days and she didn't do anything and she didn't show up today. So unfortunately for the kids, unfortunately for Miss Wiltz, I just don't see anything changing. They are with relatives. They're comfortable in the home. And they have a willing and able relative that's willing to take them and adopt them. So at this time, unfortunately, I do agree with the department.
All right. The court is considering the testimony of a number of witnesses. First witness was Amanda Dykehouse. She testified. She's with the Salvation Army Turning Point program, detox substance abuse treatment. Ms. Wiltz checked in there on November 21st, 2022, checked herself out on November 27th, 6 days later. She may have been detoxed at that time, but she did not fully complete the program that was designed to address her underlying substance abuse issue. The next witness was Amy Knapp from Woodwood Christian Services, a therapist. Ms. Knapp attempted to engage in therapy with Ms. Wiltz. They had one contact by phone in February 2023, a number of months after removal, and her attempts to make a second appointment were unsuccessful over 1, 2, 3, 4 separate appointments over the next month and a half. That culminated in a discharge from the program as the program was not completed. The next witness was Ms. Lembert she was a toxicologist, qualified as an expert from Forensic Fluids Lab in Kalamazoo. She testified to some extent about drug tests, indicating that at least the last 2 in January 2023 were positive for a number of substances: cocaine, fentanyl, THC, amphetamine, and methamphetamine. That being 6 to 7 months after the petition had been filed, and really there have been no drug tests since. they've been ignored or refused. Ms. Alicia Harris testified next. She's also with Wedgewood Christian Services, Substance Abuse Counseling. She attempted to engage with Ms. Wiltz and deal with the underlying substance abuse issues. Keep in mind that there was a period, well, I'll get to that in a minute. She attempted to engage with Ms. Wiltz in substance abuse treatment. They did set forth some planning goals, essentially a 90-day program with weekly visits. And that was the last she saw of Ms. Wiltz. She never came back, although there were appointments set. Next witness was Ms. Parker, and this is what I was going to get to. She was investigating this matter between February and June 2022. Her in-home investigation included providing gas cards, substance abuse services, drug tests, referrals for Suboxone treatment, and Big Rapids Family Health, among other services. Ms. Wiltz did not comply with nor benefit from the services, and Ms. Parker's involvement in the case essentially ended when Ms. Wiltz was found with her significant other slumped over, passed out in the vehicle, children in the back seat, 15 syringes and other substance abuse paraphernalia in the vehicle. Mr. Echtenaw then took over, well, I guess same period of time. He was part of the investigation in this matter as well. During his investigation, the children were safe for a period of that time living with a grandparent. It became apparent to him though, I guess I'm not clear on what the month was, but at some point during his investigation into the matter, the children were removed from that grandparent. Barry, I think was his name, and they were moved with the parents to Muskegon. But then again, he testified that he was aware from law enforcement that Ashton Wiltz and Devin Sarwell were found passed out in the vehicle, as I stated. Ms. Moose testified next. She took over the case as a foster care worker after removal in June of 2022, made multiple referrals to programs. She testified that that Ms. Wiltz was referred to the Salvation Army Turning Point program, did not successfully complete that program as I indicated, referred for parenting time, but that was suspended due to substance abuse. There were orders along the way that directed that parenting time could occur on a supervised basis if Ms. Wiltz was negative for illegal substances, and that just didn't occur. Family supportive services, numerous referrals for drug tests, a couple of which were negative, but many of which it appears were positive for illegal substances. And then a string of referrals since a string of refusals since January 2023. Transportation services were not engaged in. Some detox services were engaged in, although not to completion, successful completion. Counseling was a referral that was not completed. Sober living, outpatient treatment were engaged in but not completed. Trauma assessment was not completed. And the Secretary of State program to maintain their license was not completed. Methadone clinic was referred as well. Barriers were not reduced to the extent necessary for the case to continue with the goal of reunification. And at the last hearing, the request was made to change the goal to adoption, authorize the department's petition, which obviously we're here for today. Mr. Salasina has outlined two sections under the code, which he feels are appropriate for the court to consider termination of parental rights. Under MCL 712A.19B3CI, he's correctly stated that the mother is a respondent. 182 days have elapsed since the disposition, and that the conditions that led to removal in this matter continue to exist, and there's no reasonable likelihood that those conditions would be rectified in a reasonable time considering the children's age. And I would agree that clear and convincing evidence supports that section. He's also cited section J. There's a reasonable likelihood based on the actions or capacity of the child's parent that the child would be harmed if the child were to be returned to the parent, and I would agree that clear and convincing evidence supports factor J. So for those reasons, I will then turn to the best interests of the children. Ms. Barco's statements were pretty moving regarding 0 visits really in a lengthy period of time with the mother, that the children are in a safe, stable, and satisfactory environment with a relative who's willing to adopt both children. And I would certainly feel that that satisfies the best interests of the children for the second prong of that determination. And really, parties have correct, or the attorneys have correctly stated that really no barriers have been reduced. We're in no better position now than we were back a year ago in June of 2022 when this case was petitioned. Therefore, the motion to be granted, parental rights of Ashton Wiltz will be terminated. The children be referred to MCI for adoption services. The department would discontinue and terminate any and all reunification efforts. The matter be set for a post-termination review on 9/6/23 at 3:30. I think I've addressed everything necessary to address on the record. Was there anything else, counsel?
No, Your Honor. Thank
No,
you.
Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, we're all set then. I'll do that order again.